Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Bull Take Scouting Podcast. Today, we're joined by a special guest, North Dakota State offensive lineman and future 2023 NFL draft prospect, Cody Mauch. How you doing today, Cody?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Let's hop right into this interview. First question that we love to ask all the guys we interview is, what made you start playing football, and when did you fall in love with the game?
Yeah, I think what made me first start doing it is just something to do with your buddies. I mean, we didn't start as early as some guys do. We started in like fifth grade, but I mean, you go from playing in the backyard to actually being able to throw some pads on and hit some people. So as a fifth grader, there's nothing better to do than that. And then I think as high school went along, you just kind of develop a love for the game. That's kind of when I fell in love with it. I think was during high school.
Yeah, I mean, high school football for a lot of people is a great time. Myself was a little different because we were really bad. But your high school career was a little bit different than mine, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Do you have a favorite game from your football career, whether it is high school or college?
I mean, I'd say any one of the national championships that I was a part of have been pretty special. Yeah, I think the last one was I think that was pretty special because, with the COVID year, some guys are staying in next year, some aren't. And, that was supposed to be my senior year. So that was my last game with just a lot of the guys in my class that I came in with. So fun to kind of play the last game with them.
I mean, not many guys get to say, of the many national championships I won, and you've won 4 at North Dakota State. So I've always had so much respect and admiration for the program because, year after year, you guys are just a juggernaut at the FCS level. What goes into that yearly dominance that puts North Dakota State above anyone else in that level? What's so special about your program?
I think the big thing, we have an awesome, just tradition and culture in general, but when we do, or we win a national championship, we celebrate for maybe a week or so, but then we put it in the past. We don't even think about it. Like if our coaches see us wearing any national championship gear, they get on us. You can't wear that in the facility or anything. So we get a little bit to celebrate, and then we're on to the next season and just kind of getting ready to go. I think that's the biggest thing, is just not dwelling on the past and just we're looking to the future.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds a little bit like, how Bill Belichick coached the Patriots. You can't bask in your glory. If you want to repeat, you got to get right back to work. So you grew up in North Dakota, were you, following the Bison? Were you a fan of the team growing up?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I lived just 45 minutes south of Fargo, so I had been to many games, and most people in town were fans of them, and they're all just fun to watch. Or, for me, I'm a farm kid, so on a Saturday, I'm in the tractor. I just turn on the radio and listen to them in the radio.
Yeah, and you mentioned that your national championship games are some of your best memories. What about when you caught a 2-point conversion in the semifinal win over Montana State? Where does that stand?
Yeah, that was pretty fun too, because that was a season where I didn't have a starting role, but I was playing like a reserve tight end, like a jumbo package type thing. So I was getting some snaps with that, and then that whole year we were creative with our point out PATs and whatnot, and coach threw it in like, hey, we're gonna throw you a pass, whatever, and I'm like, yeah, let's go, because I've been chirping everyone on the team that I have the best hands, and I'm like, I can't drop this one. So yeah, that was pretty awesome. And then just kind of get mauled by all the guys on the sideline after.
Yeah, was it nerve-wracking before you went out there, catching that pass?
Maybe a little bit. I think just we had practiced it a bunch. So, I mean, I wasn't too nervous about that. Just we thought it would be open, and I'm just like, if I drop an open pass, this is just going to be embarrassing.
Yeah, you do hold your high school record for receiving touchdowns, which you got a pretty unique profile and unique journey in your football career, because you got that high school record for receiving touchdowns, also for sacks at your high school, so you're primarily a tight end and a defensive end. And so when you arrived at North Dakota State as a preferred walk-on, was the plan already to move you to offensive line, or did they think you were going to stick at tight end?
I don't even think they knew where I was going to go right away. I wasn't even a fall camp guy right away. I came in 7 days late to fall camp. I was going to be a school start guy. And then one of the DNs got hurt at the time. So they moved me over to DN, like, hey, can you play DN this year? So that whole season I was playing DN, scout DN, and still doing a little bit of tight end Indy. And then the next spring ball, I was still playing tight end, thought that was my path, was just to play tight end. And that spring ball, I started taking a couple tackle reps, and I'm like, well, this sucks. But then that next fall camp, I was full blown O lineman, and I'm happy. I'm happy it worked out that way.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely worked out for you now. You've got 2 years of all conference honors, but up until then, it took a few years for you to really hit the playing field. You know, a year redshirting, a year on the scout team, and then that year you said where you were often like the sixth lineman in special packages. Was it ever frustrating for you to take so long to get on the field, or did you know eventually it was all going to pay off?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things with our program too, is that especially offensive line, is right away it's tough to be able to come in and play. It takes 2-3 years of developing, and shoot, a lot of guys don't even see the field till like their senior year. So you just kind of got to wait your time and just kind of own your role throughout the whole process.
Yeah, you mentioned, as a freshman that you were supposed to be a school start guy, and you mentioned you came in 7 days late to camp. Can you just explain to our listeners a little bit how that works as a walk-on? And, not everyone's going to be starting at the same time, because I didn't really understand that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what the exact number is, but, let's say there's 100 spots open for fall camp, and you have 110, 115 people on your team. So there's going to be a couple guys who aren't invited to fall camp. And so while the team's going through fall camp, they're just kind of, I was just sitting at home. I was working on the farm. I was driving truck, and I got a call from the coach like, "Hey, can you come in?" So that's kind of how it goes. Is injuries happen. So if someone gets hurt, they'll call in one of those school start guys, and then that's their opportunity to come into camp.
And you mentioned you were on the bench for a couple of years. What did it feel like to finally be able to get that starting spot, and also what did it feel like to finally get that scholarship?
Yeah, that was it was an awesome experience, because I had been a walk-on for I think 3 years or so, and that's what every walk-on looks forward to, is just the opportunity to earn a scholarship. And then when it finally comes, it feels awesome. Like, this is what I've been working for 3 years, and knowing that, I mean, that's a big it's a big achievement, but also we're not done here. They put me on for a reason. Now we got to go, and then I earned the starting role. And that's awesome to be one of the guys, one of the 5 starting, and you start to just mesh with the 5 linemen that you have, and the quarterback and all the skill guys and whatnot, because you get a little bit more respect, I think, when you're a starting guy in there.
Yeah, and so now you're not just a starting guy. You're probably the best guy on that offensive line. There's a lot of talk about you in NFL scouting circles, and there's been a couple North Dakota State offensive linemen get drafted the last couple of years, and Dylan Reduns, Cordell Volson last year. Do you think that getting to play with them and learn from them your first couple of years has really helped get you into the position to be the next one in line off to the NFL?
For sure. I think all of us young guys are, watching the older guys at the time. For me, it was guys like Zach Johnson. He's in the league right now. And, Dylan and Cordell. I played with Cordell for, a year longer than Dylan, but Cordell is one of my best friends. So watching him, I mean, I try to, there's little bits in my game that I, watch Cordell, and I'll try to bring in my game. I watch Dylan, kind of like that. And just learning from guys like that who are absolute studs is definitely beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about your game. What are your biggest strengths, in your opinion, on the football field?
I think my biggest strengths are that I'm a pretty good athlete. I get up to the second level pretty quick, which I'm sure comes from being a tight end for my whole life and never really supposed to be playing O-line. But I think being an athlete is a pretty good skill of mine.
And, all good players know that they have strengths, but they also have weaknesses as well. So what are some things that you're working on, over the past summer, going into fall camp and heading into next season?
Just really tightening up my technique on everything. Nothing in particular, but tighter hands in general. Just keeping my pad level down, speeding my steps up, get my second step in the ground. Just small stuff like that I think can make a huge impact is what I've been really focusing on this summer.
Yeah, that sounds, really good. Definitely what any NFL scout would like to hear. Obviously, like we mentioned previously, you transitioned from tight end, defensive end to an interior or offensive lineman. What are some of your favorite parts about playing offensive line?
I think one of the biggest things is being a part of the offensive line room. I'm sure for most teams, they're the goofiest, weirdest, smelliest dudes there are. It took a little bit to kind of be embrace being a part of that, but now the best part of my day is the 30 minutes, hour before meetings when we're just in there just talking about just the wildest stuff you can think of, and just having a blast and just kind of being ourselves. That's absolutely my favorite part of being an lineman.
Yeah, I mean, I was an offensive lineman myself, and they're definitely the dirtiest guys on the team, definitely the smelliest guys on the team. But definitely a special group. You guys go through a lot together, and there's a lot of bonding that's involved with being an offensive lineman, whether that's pushing the sled for 45 minutes, doing all that stuff. So definitely a lot of bonding, and I can totally understand where you're coming from with that answer.
Yeah, you mentioned the fun side of offensive linemen, and there's a clip of you that went viral in January where you were sliding to signal the first down in the championship game. Can you just take us through that moment? What made you think to instinctually do that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it had kind of been my thing that year. Was just I love just kind of signaling first down. It was honestly to mock a lot of guys right away. Receivers or people do it all the time. First down. I just started doing it, and then it kind of started turning into something that honestly I wasn't even planning to do anything. And especially the slide, it was just our quarterback scrambled for like a 15-yard pickup or something. I was just so juiced, and we're playing on a grass field. I'm like, let's just go for it. I'm just gonna do it. It was like a spur of the moment thing, and it worked out pretty good slide. It worked out pretty well.
No, that's an awesome anecdote. Let's get into our last few questions of the interview. A couple, fun ones, a little bit different that we like to end off on. Do you have any NFL role models or a couple players that you look to emulate your game after?
Yeah, definitely guys like Joe Thomas. He's an absolute technician. Any tackle should definitely be trying to model their game after him, and not only just the way he plays, but the way he approaches film study, player analysis, stuff like that. He's an absolute he's just he's different when it comes to film study, and trying to look up, listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos on stuff that he says, just about how he really brings his craft together, for Sundays, and because it starts on Monday for him.
Yeah, and who's the best player or a few of the best players that you've played against in your collegiate career so far?
Yeah, there's guys in that championship game against Montana State, Troy Anderson, the linebacker. I think he got drafted in the second round. He's a freak out. He's playing quarterback a couple of years ago. He's a stud linebacker, just great athlete. Guys like him he's one of the best I probably played against. And there's a D lineman the last couple of years, I guess, from Northern Iowa, Jared Brinkman, who's just a big, strong dude, and tough to move sometimes. You can't be slacking on a play, because he will bring it to you if you don't. So you really got to stay on your toes and try to block a guy like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's spin that question the other way. Of your current teammates, whose game do you really admire, and you're confident that they're going to be going on to the next level too in the NFL?
I'd say the guy playing next to me, Nash Jensen, left guard. It's awesome to have a guy who we played together. This will be our third season together. So we have a really, really good relationship. Sometimes you almost don't need to talk out there. We just kind of know what the other one's doing. And so I'm just having that type of relationship is awesome. And it helps that he's an awesome player too. I definitely think he's going to get a shot too at the next level. So that is, it's great to play next to someone like that.
Yeah. And the last question that we love to ask all the guys that we interview, you can take a second to think about this if you need to, but what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received from anyone?
I think the best piece of advice I've received is from, one of our coaches. It's just be where your feet are. It's, anything you're doing, it doesn't even have to apply to football. Just don't let your mind wander. Just wherever you are, just be there and be there in the moment, and really try to embrace and get everything out of anything that you're doing. Because if you start to let your mind wander, you're going to start, giving 50% and stuff, and not going to become the best version of yourself.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. Like you mentioned, it doesn't have to apply just to football, but really focus on what you're doing in the moment and give that everything you have, and try to stay on task and stay doing one thing at a time. So I think great piece of advice, whether it's football or just life in general.
For sure. Yep.
And man, thanks for having the time to come on here. It was really great talking to you. We really look forward to watching your season. Hopefully, a fifth consecutive ring is in the future. We'll be excited and pumped for you if that happens, and I can't wait for you to take on the NFL draft process after that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate coming on like this and chopping it up with you guys a little bit. It's pretty cool. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Again, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. Good luck this season. And thanks to everyone for listening and for watching. And we'll be back with another episode soon.